Hey friends, welcome back to a new video. It is time for a much needed book unhaul. It is no secret that I love to buy books, I love to collect books, and I do film book hauls fairly frequently, but I don't really film unhauls. What I normally do is if I read a book and I don't like it and I don't want to keep it, it ends up in my basement, and then when I've accumulated a good number of books, I bring them to a local used bookstore where I get store credit when I bring in the books that I want to get rid of. But I just never get around to actually filming book unhauls, and part of the reason is because I feel nervous almost to share negative thoughts about the books that I'm getting rid of, and I don't want to offend anyone. And so I end up just bringing all the books to this used bookstore, and y'all never know when I get rid of them. But I do find book unhauls to be really entertaining, and I just enjoy seeing why people are getting rid of books, and it's honestly so satisfying to just purge your shelves and keep the books that you want to keep, and the ones that you don't care for, send them on their way. Over the past several months, I've actually accumulated a really big pile of books in my basement that I want to get rid of, and I thought I'd just go through them with you. And there are also some books on my shelves that I know for a fact I'm not going to reread. The majority of the books on my shelves that I want to unhaul are books I've already read. So in terms of my physical TBR, that isn't really going to decrease very much, just because the books that I've bought, I really do want to read them. I want to give them a try. A lot of the books that I am unhauling today, I've either fully read or I have tried a chapter and DNF'd. I did kind of do a personal try a chapter challenge, if you will. I didn't film anything, but there are several books where I did read the first chapter and decided they're not for me. Some of them I ended up putting back on my shelves because I do want to keep them. But these are all just books that I've read, and I'm okay getting rid of them because I'm not going to read them again. Or they're books that I've tried and have just decided they're not books that I want to keep on my shelves. I don't think I will ever get to them. I am a little nervous filming videos like this. I hope no one is upset that I am getting rid of books, especially if they are books that you have loved. It's really not that deep, but I do get nervous uploading videos like this. Anyways, let's go ahead. We're gonna look through my bookshelves and then we'll go over the books that I brought up from the basement. All right, so I've gone through my shelves. I don't know the exact number of books that I have here, but there are quite a few, and let's just quickly go through them. I don't want to spend too much time on each just because there are a lot of books to get through. The first one here is A Handful of Dust by Evelyn Waugh. I don't know how to say it, but this one's a classic, and the entire storyline has to do with an affair because a woman's bored. No thanks. Also, these are in no order. I'm just going through them as I pick them up. The next one is A River Enchanted by Rebecca Ross. Rebecca Ross is a comfort author for me. I really love her YA fantasy. This was her first adult fantasy, and I liked it, but I didn't love it. And I don't plan on reading the sequel, so I am okay getting rid of this just because I'm never going to reread it, and I really don't have any attachments to it, so this is going. These three books, I have been debating whether or not I want to get rid of them just because I liked the first book and I didn't like the second book, but I've heard the third book is kind of where it gets good. But I just don't care. It is such a long series, and I'm not the biggest fan of the characters, to be completely honest. It's just not a series for me. It's the Three Pines series. The first one is Still Life, then we have A Fatal Grace and The Cruelest Month. I really liked Still Life, more so because I liked the mystery, but I did not like A Fatal Grace and ended up DNFing it when I tried it, and I just have no attachments to the series. It's very long, and when I start series, I really like to complete them and commit, and I just don't think this is one that I want to commit to, so they are going. The Black Swan of Paris by Karen Robards. I read and enjoyed it, but didn't love it, and I don't think I'll ever reread it, so this one is going as well. Same idea with Dangerous Alliance. This is a YA Austen-esque Regency romance, and I read it a few years ago. I thought it was cute, but not going to reread it. Then we have the Sugar Baron's Daughters series. So we have the first book, which is Keturah or Keturah, then Verity, and I think Selah. That's how I pronounce it, but I did read these, I think, for the first time as a teenager, reread them as an adult. They're cute, fun, clean historical romances, but I'm not going to reread them. We also have Dante's Inferno, which a lot of people love, but I'm just not interested in it, so not gonna keep it. We also have Crime and Punishment. I know this book is so loved, but I tried it and it's just not for me. So this is going. We also have Alice in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass. I do have an illustrated edition of Alice in Wonderland, so I just don't really feel the need to keep this one. These next two books are historical fiction that I read many years ago, and I really did enjoy them when I read them, but I don't feel the desire to reread them. So because I've had them on my shelves for so long, I think it's time that they go. The first one is Resistance Women by Jennifer Ciavarini, and this one is also very long and very dense, and it almost felt like I forget the term where it's nonfiction, but it reads like a novel. That's kind of what it felt like, even though it is fiction. But I just don't think I will reread it. And then we also have The Auschwitz Escape by Joel C. Rosenberg. Again, I liked it at the time, but not going to reread it. We have A Deal of a Lifetime and Other Stories by Frederick Bachman. These are stories that I very much enjoyed, but again, just not going to reread them. So don't need to keep it. This next book I'm actually pretty upset about because I just bought it and then I heard things about it and decided it's just not a book that I want to read, and that is City of Thieves by David Benioff. This one I have heard has a lot of language and a lot of just really gross content, and I of course heard that after I had already bought it, which I'm a little sad about, but it's okay. I did get it from Book Outlet, so it wasn't crazy pricey, but I do generally look into content warnings and just content in general when I buy books. But for some reason, I missed this one, and I think it's because I had heard such high praise for it, and so I just decided to buy it, and I kind of wish that I didn't, but it's going. We also have The Poison Thread and The Shape of Darkness by Laura Purcell. I had read The Poison Thread a few years ago and enjoyed it, and then I read Silent Companions by her, and that book just didn't sit well with me at all. So I've decided that I'm not going to read her books anymore, and I will be unhauling these. We have a few more classics here. First up is Jude the Obscure, and I had defaced the front cover. I hated this book. It got to a point where I was hate reading it, and it was kind of fun because I hated it so much and was just so exasperated, but it's not staying. We also have A Town Like Alice by Neville Shute. This one I didn't hate. I actually enjoyed it, but I'm not going to reread it, and I have no attachments to it. And then this third one, I don't think I will ever get to it, and I'm very picky with Russian literature, and that is Lady with Lapdog and Other Stories. And also with short stories, I tend to not like them all that much. There are exceptions, but I just don't think this one is going to be one that I end up having very fond feelings for, so I am okay to unhaul it. I find I have been getting a lot more picky with historical fiction, and I read a book by this author that I did not like, so I will be getting rid of this one. That is The Forest of Vanishing Stars by Kristen Harmel. I read the Book of Lost Names and just did not care for it, so I have no desire to read anything else by her, so I will be unhauling this. Another historical fiction that I thought was just okay, and I'm definitely in the minority. A lot of people love this book. That is A Lady's Guide to Fortune Hunting by Sophie Irwin. I just didn't love it, and I was pretty disappointed with this one, so no attachments. And we also have The Asylum by Karen Coles. This one I did enjoy. It's kind of a gothic Victorian historical fiction, and I, like I said, enjoyed it, but there are definitely aspects of the story that didn't sit well with me, so I don't think I will ever reread it, and I'm okay getting rid of it. We also have Five and Dime Christmas. This is a collection of 4 historical novellas around the Christmas season, and I read the first one, and I thought it was okay. They're short, kind of cheesy stories, so I just have no desire to read the other 3. We'll finish off the books from my shelves with 3 fantasy. First we have As Old as Time. This is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, but with a twist, and I liked it, but I just don't see myself ever rereading it, so this will be going. And then we also have Strange the Dreamer and Muse of Nightmares by Laini Taylor. These books I really loved when I read them, but hindsight, I just don't think I will reread them, and there's definitely some content that I don't like, so I'm totally fine unhauling these ones as well. All right, we are on the floor because I have a couple bags of books to go through, and it's just easier if we're on the floor. For a lot of these, I have actually tried the first chapter just to see if I have any interest in them. So a lot of them I did like the personal try a chapter challenge and decided that I don't want to keep them. So the first one here is Dark of the West by Joanna Hathaway. This one I haven't heard very many people talk about, but I went in not really knowing what to expect. It is a fantasy, and just after the first chapter, I don't think the writing style is for me, and just in general, I am not drawn to the story at all, so this one's going. We also have The Broken Girls by Simone St. James, which I have read twice and I did enjoy, but I'm kind of moving away from paranormal stories. I just don't find I really want to read those types of stories anymore for a variety of reasons. And so for that reason, I'm also getting rid of her book, Lost Among the Living. So these two as well. We have Bear Town by Frederick Bachman, which is so beloved, but it's just not for me. I did give it a few chapters and it's just not for me. This next book, I may be convinced to keep it if any of you have read it and loved it, and that is The Lady of the Rivers by Philippa Gregory. I think the reason that I was just not wanting to read this is because I'm very much intimidated by the Tudor period. But I just read a mystery called Dissolution by C.J. Sansom. That book was very, very much outside of my comfort zone, but I really enjoyed it. So now I'm wondering, maybe I would enjoy this. I don't know. This one's a maybe. So let me know if you've read it and what your thoughts were. I did try a few chapters of A Tapestry of Light by Kimberly Duffy, and I just don't think she is the author for me. Same idea with The Muse by Jessie Burton. I just don't think she's the author for me as well. And this one has to do with art and it's dual timeline, and I just wasn't really interested. I also have some biblical fiction here. We have several books by Jill Eileen Smith. The first one is The Heart of a King. This is a standalone and it's about King Solomon's wives, and it was okay, not my favorite. Same idea with the Wives of King David series. I thought they were okay, not the best that I've read, but we have Michal, Abigail, and Bathsheba, and I just thought they were fine. No attachments. To all the fans of Melanie Dickerson, I'm so sorry, but she's not the author for me. These books are very much books I would have loved as a teenager when I really got into like fairy tale retellings, and I still do enjoy fairy tale retellings, but not if they're written for a very young YA audience. But then I do love middle grade fairy tale retellings. I don't know. My feelings and my tastes are all over the place, but just this style of writing in particular is not for me. I did try this first book here, The Huntress of Thornbeck Forest, and I DNF'd it. It just was not working for me. So I will also be unhauling The Beautiful Pretender and The Noble Servant, which I did read many years ago, and I don't even remember what my thoughts were about it because it's been so long. I tried The Lady of Bolton Hill by Elizabeth Camden, and I just found it to be way too cheesy for me, so unhauling. And then we also have The Socialite by Janelle Chizelsky, and I have tried another book by this author and just didn't care for it, and I think it has to do with her writing style. It's just not for me. Next is a middle grade that I read quite a while ago, but I don't remember too much about it, and that is Esperanza Rising by Pam Munoz Ryan. This one, like I said, I remember basically nothing other than it has to do with a Mexican family. It's historical fiction, middle grade. I think I enjoyed it when I read it, but I really don't remember. I'm also unhauling the Daisy Dalrymple mystery books that I have. The only one that I'm keeping is Mistletoe Murder, I think it's what it's called. And it's the Christmas one, and I really did enjoy that one. I did enjoy the first few, which I have on Kindle, but I found that each successive book was just getting less and less interesting, and I'm not the biggest fan of the writing style as well, and I just don't feel the need to keep these. So it's kind of unfortunate because they have the most beautiful covers, but they are just not the mysteries for me. We also have Our Woman in Moscow by Beatrice Williams. I have heard a few things about this book that just made me completely lose interest. Then I tried a few chapters and just I have no interest in it. I also don't really feel the need to keep George Bernard Shaw's plays. They're not my absolute favorite plays. I did enjoy Pygmalion, but if I find an edition of just Pygmalion, I will be happy with that. I just don't feel the need to keep this. And it's a Norton Critical Edition, so it has more essays than it actually has plays, and it just takes up a lot of shelf space, so this one's going. This next book, the reason I'm getting rid of it, well, it's twofold. One, I hated the book, but it's also hardback, and all of my Agatha Christie's are paperback, and so this not so beautiful edition of, that's upside down, Elephants Can Remember, I am not gonna keep. I did not like the story, and like I said, all my other Agatha Christie books are paperback, and I just don't like how this looked sitting with them, so it's not staying. I ended up trying and DNFing The Shadow of the Wind by Carlos Ruiz Zafón. This one is a beloved gothic dark academia book that just didn't work for me, and I just don't feel the need to read it, and it has some content that I don't like, so it's going. I'll also be getting rid of Eve's Daughters by Lynn Austen. I do enjoy Lynn Austen, but this one, like a lot of the other books, I read years and years ago and just don't think I will ever reread. So if it had been a favorite, I would know that it's a favorite and would not want to get rid of it, but it was not. So we also have Dragonfly by Leela Meacham, and tried a few chapters, not a fan of the writing style, unhauling. Same with Vinyl Resting Place by Olivia Black. This is a cozy mystery that a lot of people really enjoyed, but not for me. I read the first couple chapters and it's just the vibe of it. Besides like the cute, cozy coffee shop setting, nothing else was working for me, and it's not for me. We also have The Life and Times of Miss Jane Marple by Anne Hart. This is basically like a nonfiction about Miss Marple, who wasn't even a real person, which it's cute. The idea is cute, but I tried a few pages and I'm not interested. And last but not least, I'm getting rid of 2 different series. The first one is a series of 3 books, and then we have a duology, and they are by Colleen Coble. I've never talked about Colleen Coble. I haven't read her books in years, but as a teenager, I used to read her a lot. I would get her books out from the library all the time, and I have a couple series here that were my favorites, but looking back now, I don't think I will reread these. They're very much what teenage Miriam loved. And the first series here is the Mercy Falls series. So we have The Lightkeeper's Daughter, we have The Lightkeeper's Bride, and The Lightkeeper's Ball, and they're very much what teenage me loved, but I just don't feel the need to keep them anymore. And then same idea for this duology here. It is the Under Texas Stars duology. So we have Blue Moon Promise and Safe in His Arms. Just typical, clean Christian romance, not for me anymore. And just Colleen Coble in general is not the author for me, but I did really enjoy her as a teenager. Okay, so I've counted up the books. There are, I think 65, 64, 65 around there. That is a lot of books. I am very, very happy with how this turned out. It is very satisfying. Honestly, I'm okay with having a lot of unread books on my shelves because I'm a mood reader and I like having a large selection, I guess, of books to read from. But in terms of the books that I've read, I definitely like having them representative of the books that I love, books that I would like to reread, etc. And honestly, it also feels good to just do a little purge. So that is the UNHAUL. Please let me know if you disagree with any of my choices. I'm very, very curious, but I have absolutely no regrets. This feels really nice, and that's it for this book UNHAUL. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.